just heard it from over there that they...
President Hakainde Hichilema has commuted the death sentences of all death row inmates to life imprisonment in exercise of his prerogative of mercy. Cabinet has agreed to the roadmap leading to the enactment of the Access to Information Bill by June this year. And police in Lusaka have seized counterfeit Samsung and LG flat screen television sets in an operation conducted in the Central Business District. Republican President Hakainde Hichilema has commuted the death sentences of all the 390 death row inmates to life imprisonment in exercise of his prerogative of mercy. The president last year assented to the Penal Code Amendment Bill 2022, abolishing the death penalty. Addressing a media briefing in Lusaka, Home Affairs and Internal Security Minister Jack Mwimbo says of the 390 death row inmates whose sentences have been commuted to life imprisonment, 279 are male inmates, while 11 are female inmates, all from Mukobeko Maximum Security Facility. Mr. Mwimbo says that this means that there is currently no inmate on death row, adding that from now onwards, no court in Zambia will be handing down death sentences as the law does not allow. He adds that this is also in line with the commitment of the New Dawn administration to uphold human rights and preservation of life.
There are fewer females were convicted and sentenced to death. There are very few. That is why I read that number. The number which I indicated is the correct position. If you go to most of these prisons, in some prisons there are no females who are incarcerated. So the females rarely commit heinous crimes. And usually in such situations where you find females, are convicted to murder, usually it may arise out of domestic, disputes. Other than that, very few. The numbers will always be. Hello?
Why not commit all of them to life, the remaining ones, since they are children?
All those who are condemned to death and they have been convicted have all been commuted. There is now no death sentence. We are merely informing the nation, arising from the commitment by His Excellency that we shall abolish the death sentence. And we went ahead by submitting a bill in Parliament, which was eventually agreed upon to amend the Penal Code and the Criminal Procedure Code. Immediately thereafter, the law does not allow any judicial officer to pronounce a death sentence. It doesn't. So it therefore means from now onwards, no court in Zambia will be sentencing anyone to death because the law does not allow. So we are merely conforming to the wishes of the people of Zambia through the various presidents who have not been willing to sign the death warrants. So we have ensured that we adhere to the commitments we made to the people of Zambia.
And Mr. Mwimbo says that the New Dawn administration is in the process of ensuring that all archaic laws, including the Public Order Act, are repealed or amended so that laws are harmonized for the interest of the people of Zambia. He says that the government will ensure that the will of the people prevails with regard to the amendment of the Public Order Act by having a piece of legislation that is acceptable and is able to regulate the public participation in the preservation of the right of the people to demonstrate and speak about issues pertaining to the way government is managing the country. Mr. Mwimbo has, however, expressed concern that after the amendment of the provisions pertaining to the defamation of the president, some members of the public now think they have the right to continue defaming the president with impunity. He states that laws are still in place that protect the rights of individuals, including the Republican president.
We have noticed with concern that after the abolishment of the provisions pertaining to defamation of the president, other members of the public found it, in their opinion, that now they have the right to continue defaming the president with impunity. Laws are still in place that protect the rights of individuals, including the president. As we exercise our rights as enshrined in the Constitution, we must be seen to be responsible citizens by ensuring that we respect the rights of others. We are not there to suppress the rights of individuals, but to protect the rights of individuals. It is therefore my earnest appeal to all Zambians to respect the laws as currently obtaining and ensure that we do not transgress and ensure that we respect the rights of others as we want to exercise our freedom of association, the right to organize as obtaining in the laws of this country. Ladies and gentlemen, the new administration is committed to equitable provision of safety, security and justice for all citizens. It is also committed to strengthening all government institutions to guarantee fundamental human rights and civil liberties.
Cabinet has adopted the roadmap leading to the enactment of the Access to Information Bill by June 2023. This follows a cabinet meeting held at State House on Monday, 6th of February 2023. Chief Government Spokesperson Chush Kasanda says it is in the interest of government to ensure that adequate consultations are undertaken with all stakeholders so that, as planned, the Access to Information Law is enacted in order to enhance access to the public information. Ms. Kasanda says in view of the fight against corruption waged by the New Donor government, Cabinet is fully aware that the enactment of the bill is also expected to enhance this fight and support efforts towards rational utilization of public resources. And Ms. Kasanda says Cabinet believes it is in the interest of government to ensure the electricity situation improves by way of reducing load management, as this is the only way to ensure growth of the economy. She states that Cabinet believes it is important for the country to seriously address the issue of renewable energy resource as priority to resolving the electricity challenges going forward. She adds that Cabinet also deliberated on the need to improve on the supply of fuel due to the importance of fuel, just like electricity, in keeping the economy running. The minister says that the implementation of a private sector-led bulk petroleum supply system as an option was discussed so as to enhance the security of supply of petroleum products in the country. Cabinet has also approved the appointment of a 7-member board of trustees for the GRZ Funeral Assistance Scheme in order to enhance good governance in the management of the scheme on behalf of members who are public service employees. The compulsory funeral assistance scheme for all public servants was launched in 2016 as one way of ensuring sustainable livelihoods for families of public servants following the death of a family member. The Zambia Police Service Intellectual Property Unit has seized 45 counterfeit flat-screen television sets worth 127,000 kwacha in an operation conducted in Lusaka Central Business District. Police Deputy Spokesperson Danny Mwale says that the seized television sets, which are of different sizes, have fake Samsung and LG labels on them. Mr. Mwale says the police received a complaint from Samsung and LG on the counterfeit television sets being sold on the market, and acting on the complaint conducted an operation in the CBD leading to the seizure of the television sets in question. He says police have since recorded a warn and caution statement from the owners of the seized television sets while investigations in the matter continue. Mr. Mwale has since cautioned members of the public to always verify the authenticity of such products before purchasing to avoid being cheated on their hard-earned money. He says police will continue with such operations and extended the same to other parts of the country. The cost of living for a family of 5 in Lusaka, as measured by the Jesuit Center for Theological Reflection, JCTR Basic Needs and Nutrition Basket for the month of January 2023, increased to 9,047.31. This is an increase of 64.949 kwacha from the 8,982 kwacha recorded in December 2022. JCTR Social and Economic Development Programs Officer Aquila Ngonga says that the upward movement in the basket is attributed to increased prices in food items such as 2x25 kg roller mail bags, which went up by 51 kwacha 28 ngwe from 245 kwacha or 122 by 0.5 kwacha per 25 kg bag to 296.28 kwacha or 148.14 kwacha per 25 kg bag. Mr. Ngonga says that the basket, however, recorded notable decreases in food items such as 6 kg cassava flour, which went down by 44.46 kwacha from 109.50 kwacha to 65 kwacha, among others. He says while the annual inflation rate recorded by the Zambia Statistics Agency fell to 9.4% in January from 9.9% in December 2022, and the Energy Regulation Board pump price of petroleum products fell in the month of reflection, the cost of living increased slightly. He states that food items, particularly meal, drove this increase. Mr. Ngonga is concerned about the market's high meal prices and the fundamental right to bodily integrity to the means necessary for the proper development of life, which among others include the right to food. He says meal remains an important staple food in Zambian households.
Food items, particularly meal, drove this increase. To this end, JCTR is concerned about the market's high meal prices and the fundamental right to bodily integrity to the means necessary for the proper development of life, which among other include the right to food. Meal remains an important staple food in Zambian households. The commodity's high prices, trading at 250 kwacha per 25 kilograms per bag of breakfast meal in some cases, combined with stagnant or declining disposable income for various households across the country, is already limiting access to the valuable commodity. These have serious consumption and nutritional implications for the average Zambian households, and it is even worse for low-income households because they stand to be affected in a more disproportionate way. As a result, JCTR is urging the government to prioritize action to address the high minimum prices while continuing to present efforts to reduce the high cost of living. JCTR considers the cost of diet linear programming when constructing the basic needs and nutrition basket, which selects the least expensive combination of local goods that meet the specifications for energy, macronutrients and micronutrients, and are consistent with typical dietary habits.
Minister of Finance and National Planning, Stumbeko Musokotwane, says investors' interest in Zambia's mining sector remains high as government works to position the country as a mining hub for the global green economy and one-stop shop for electricity vehicle batteries. Dr. Musokotwane says Zambia has become a destination of choice for foreign direct investments due to its political stability and conducive business environment. The minister said this after holding meetings on the sidelines of the ongoing mining endeavor in South Africa with several companies that have expressed interest in the country's mining sector, where some of them made inquiries on Mopani copper mines with proposals on bringing the mine asset to full production. Dr. Musokotwane is expected to hold more bilateral meetings. Meanwhile, ZCCM Investment Holdings Board Chairperson Dolika Banda says that the Investment Holdings is keen to getting Mopani to its full production by ensuring liquidity challenges are addressed, as it is a strategic asset in meeting the 3 million metric tons of copper production target. The Presence of God Ministry says the economy is not doing fine at the moment, leaving Zambians wallowing in abject poverty. Apostle Kunda says that the monthly review of fuel pump prices, the ongoing load shedding are key factors leading to the increase in the cost of living. He says government should address the continued load shedding coupled with the high cost of fuel, which are negatively impacting small businesses. Apostle Kunda says that people are so hungry that they have nothing in their homes and cannot pay tithe and are asking to be assisted with their rentals.
Living in the country, 80% are living the life of poverty. They are in need. So there are a lot of things that are going on. Some people now, they are eating 1 meal a day. So the government, they need to reduce the bag of meal and also to ensure that there are a lot of Zambians who need empowerment. We don't want to start quoting what is happening in other countries, how the government scare their own people. But I'm appealing to the government that the level of poverty has gone up. So let's just the government find a way to help the citizens of this country. I am a pastor and I am seeing that a lot of members, they cannot come to church. Some because they don't have transport to give. They don't have transport to use it for bus fares. So you find that they are affected. Some of them even offerings they don't have to give, but they are coming to church without offering. So that is the challenge that we are seeing, and we are seeing the queue of our members who are coming just to ask, to say, Pastor, I have failed to pay the landlords. Others, they say, Pastor, since 3 days we have not had food. So this is the situation, current situation in the nation. Current situation in the nation. So government, you have the responsibility, and my prayer that the new Dawn government, they honor their promises to the Zambian people. And the Zambian people voted for this government that things will be better with them. So it's what we are asking today, that they will help the citizens to live better life.
The Opposition Economic Front has condemned government for what it has termed as the reckless increase in fuel pump prices, the highest in the history of this country. Party national spokesperson Humphrey Kawe says that the recent increment will cause the cost of living and production to sharply increase, making the lives of people difficult and might result in some companies laying off workers. Mr. Kawe says it is now clear that President Hichilema and his leadership deceived the Zambian people that once voted into government, they will reduce the fuel prices to 12 kwacha per litre. He says that the recent fuel hike has shown that the UPND government does not care about the poor people, but rather concerned with making profit at the expense of exploiting ordinary people through high prices of fuel and other commodities.
It is unfortunate to see the leadership of President Hakainde Hichilema finding happiness in increasing fuel on a monthly basis, while themselves continue to receive free fuel from taxpayers. The recent fuel increment has shown that UPND government doesn't care about the lives of poor people, but rather they care more on making profit at the expense of exploiting ordinary people through high prices of fuel and other commodities. The people of Zambia should now understand that the UPND government will not improve their lives. Thus, the need for them to support President Winter Kabimba and the Economic Front, which ensure that fuel subsidy is reintroduced and Indeni is reopened, as well as revert to 3 months fuel review so that the cost of fuel is reduced and make other commodities affordable to the people of Zambia. The people of Zambia voted for UPND to make things affordable, but it is unfortunate they are seeing the opposite. We appeal to the people of Zambia to stand up and support President Winter Kabimba as we go towards 2026 general election if they are to see reduction in food commodities and the improvement of our economy.
A University of Zambia historian, Houston Chiputa, has cautioned the ruling United Party for National Development to stop reacting with emotions when Zambians complain over the high cost of living. Dr. Chiputa says what government needs to do is galvanize the nation towards finding solutions to these challenges. And Dr. Chiputa says that the UPND government must not concentrate on petty issues such as tribal remarks being made by some people, which Zambians already rejected. He says that tribal talk will not move Zambians from supporting the UPND, but that what will make Zambians not to support the UPND is if they fail to deliver. Dr. Chiputa states that tribal talk has in the past not helped those who peddled it, and therefore the UPND should not be worried to the point of arresting certain individuals, thereby making them popular. He says that the arrest of Patriotic Front member of the Central Committee, Chimba Kambwili, because some people went to his house to complain over the high cost of living, is unnecessary.
The more you arrest Kambwili, the more you make him popular, because you draw the attention not just of the nation, but of the world. What is special about this person who has been arrested and locked up just because 4 or 5 people went to his house? So the whole international community is drawn towards this person. They dig him up, they find, then they begin also to wave their support towards that person, away from the sitting government. So sometimes leaders, especially in government, need to be analytical to weigh the situation and see if we arrest this person, what will it mean in terms of our relationship with our own society and the international community? Because these are factors that weigh heavily when it comes to elections. Yes, elections are very tough. PF used to think elections were very tough. But what happened in 2021? So even today, the challenge, unfortunately, sometimes we think that when elections are far away, people forget. But I think at the end of the day, it's important to bear in mind what the president said, implement what the president said, and see how we move on as a nation. Nobody denies that we have a problem. The president the other day was in Southern Province and Central Province. We have a challenge with infrastructure because of floods, because of heavy rain. Nobody should deny that. What we need is for the leadership in government to galvanize the nation, to work together. Forget about this talk about tribalism. I personally don't think that will move Zambians away from supporting the UPND. It won't. What will move Zambians from supporting the UPND perhaps is if the UPND fails to deliver. But so far, the UPND is anchoring on various success stories. Yes, the problem of fuel and hunger is real, but it is a solution that we need as a people to override these problems, because these are national problems. Nobody can pretend that they can solve them alone. They are national problems, and people need to support the government to ensure that we override these problems and move on. They talk about tribalism. People have used it before. It has never helped them. It won't help anybody. So I don't think it's something that should worry those who are in government so much that they end up arresting people. I don't.
The Food Reserve Agency has warned millers against exporting the subsidized maize they are getting from the agency. FRA Board Chairperson Kelvin Hambwezia says that the temptation of exporting maize is very high because neighboring countries are buying maize at 5,500 kwacha per metric ton when the agency is offloading it on the market at 4,000 kwacha a ton. Mr. Hambwezia states that it would be immoral for millers to start exporting maize which they have been given to mill to address the high meal meal prices in the country.
And later the Food Reserve Agency, specifically to make sure that matters of food security are prioritized in the country. And so when you begin to make reckless statements that there is no maize, for instance, I see some people, they wake up from slumber and they say there's no maize in the country, without facts. And there are issues where we've got a bit of weaver attack in some depots. It's inevitable When you have 12 million bags of maize, you don't expect all that maize to be pest-free. You will have 3, 4, 5, 200 bags eaten. But then you see some people, some district commissioners somewhere screaming and saying, no, there's a disaster here. The next thing you see is a headline in the newspaper. That is not helping. You are exacerbating the problem as a leader. And you don't rush to the media. I saw some reading somewhere where there's some district commissioners in a certain area, I will not name them, went and rushed to the media. They couldn't even call me or my management here to check. And let alone, things were not what they were saying. So we call on our leaders to be responsible during a time like this. Because if we make reckless statements about the food situation in the country, we're going to cause havoc, we're going to cause turmoil. The next thing we'll see now is panic buying, which is already happening. People are panicking. They're piling up minimum in their homes because they believe there isn't enough maize. And because of some reckless statements which some people are making. We're food reserve agents, we're a professional body, we're not in politics, we deal with statistics, we're running these agents professionally, we're putting in our best. I know what my management goes through. So we deserve the greatest of respects.
Still in local news, Disaster Management and Mitigation Unit, DMMU National Coordinator, Dr. Gabriel Poland says that the southern part of the country is the worst affected by floods as a result of heavy rains. Dr. Poland says government is providing intervention to all the affected areas in different provinces. He says government through DMMU is providing primary relief response of both food and non-food items to all the flood-affected people. Dr. Poland states that in addition to the relief interventions, the unit is disseminating early warning information for early action. He says that floods have left a trail of destruction to property and critical infrastructure, such as crossing points, roads, and public buildings, as well as displacement of people and livestock in the affected districts.
We are also undertaking responses in Eastern Province, in Western Province, and I'll just say all the provinces of the country. However, the latest impact shows that Southern Province is the hardest hit in terms of flooding, the extent of flooding.
That it requires a lot of water. Mr. Anakoka says his tour of his constituency has reviewed submerged crop fields, that some crops have been submerged in water, thus anticipating serious hunger in the next 2 months. Meanwhile, Mr. Anakoka says that the 2022 Constituency Development Fund has been a lifesaver. He says that the constituency received an overwhelming number of applications and managed to give grants to 127 groups in all the 13 wards of the constituency.
In terms of the community projects, again, we have projects all over the constituents, ranging from the construction of bridges, classrooms, and clinic infrastructure. In fact, we have a completely new clinic that is being constructed in Ituk ward. In terms of the bursaries, that's where we didn't have a lot of people taking up opportunities, and that's because we have very few children who go to boarding schools, because we do not have a boarding school in the district. So what we have done is much of the money for bursaries has actually been wired so that we construct boarding facilities at one of our boarding schools in Nangula ward, at Nangula Secondary School, so that we can give access to bursary support to more children once the dormitory facilities are constructed later this year. So I think the CDF has been a lifesaver for the people in Luena constituency. The rains have really been excessive this year. Generally, we are people of the water, as you know. But on the other hand, the rain has wreaked havoc indeed this year. I've been touring the constituents, and I was in Nangula ward in a place called Nalonge, 2 days ago, and I went to Isambai. I also went to Ikuichi. I went to Namboma. Crops have been submerged in water, and so we anticipate that there will be serious food shortage in the next 1 or 2 months. So maybe I should take this opportunity to actually appeal to the DMMU to be on the alert, because the people of Luena constituency will need DMMU support as a result of this flooding. The only crop that might survive, which needs a lot of water, is actually rice. But maize has seriously been affected in terms of expected harvest for this year.
The new Dawn government has been urged to consult those who once served in government on how they managed to curb cholera before the outbreak gets out of hand. Public health expert Beck Banda is saddened that after living 3 years without recording any case of cholera, some parts of the country have recorded cholera cases. Dr. Banda says the cholera is a very fast-spreading disease, and if not well handled, the country may lose lives. He has advised government to change the approach in preventing cholera by ensuring that they engage community-based agents such as ward development committees to sensitize people on cholera prevention. And Dr. Banda says the public health department of the municipal councils must make sure that there is a cholera outbreak, must make sure that where there is a cholera outbreak, they scale up the cleaning exercise of markets and other public places. Private Security Companies Association of Zambia President Francis Mukoka has welcomed the deferment of the implementation of the revised minimum wage and conditions of employment. Recently, the Tripartite Consultative Labour Council announced that the recently revised minimum wage and conditions of employment will come into effect on 1st of August 2023 following a meeting of council partners, namely Zambia Federation of Employers, Zambia Congress of Trade Unions, Federation of Free Trade Unions of Zambia, and the government held on 18th of January 2023. Ms. Mukoka says that the implementation of the revised minimum wage was at short notice and that there was no way security companies would have implemented this looking at the economic challenges the country is facing. He complains that private security companies are being sidelined from guarding some parastatal companies who have good rates as compared to those providing security services to individuals in residential areas. Mr. Mukoka adds that the security companies were not consulted in coming up with the revised minimum wages and conditions of employment.
We have welcomed the move extending it to August, like where security companies were ordered to comply by January. It was short notice, and also, as I've mentioned and I've been saying, that the consultation were not done properly, because us as Private Security Companies Association, we are not consulting. We know what these security companies are going through, and we offered ourselves that we can also give a solution so that majority of the security companies complied to the law of increasing the minimum wage for the security companies. We expect that since this has been extended, we expect that the Ministry of Home Affairs, I think, will invite us so that maybe we can also give them what is on the ground. What we are not against the increment, but we are saying they should have done the wide consultation where we could have also been given chance to tell the Ministry of Labour what the challenges and what are the companies also the charging rates for these security companies. As I've mentioned, the people that did the consultation, I think they only did with parastatal companies, where we know that there is a good charging rate for those from those security companies that are providing security services to these parastatal companies. But there are those that are also providing security to individuals in residential areas who are also charging at 1,600 and 1,500 because of business is very difficult this time. So people opt to go even for the 1,600. But now, if you are telling this security company to pay the guards at 2,000.
Germany's car industry is warning against what it calls a spiral of protectionism. This comes as German Economy Minister Robert Habeck wrapped up a 3-day trip to Washington, where he met with Secretary of State Antony Blinken and other U.S. officials to discuss concerns with the Inflation Reduction Act. The law provides $370 billion in green manufacturing incentives to companies located in the United States. Mr. Habeck gave few specifics as he spoke to journalists alongside his French counterpart Bruno Le Maire, but he said the Europeans and the US sides agreed on a number of fundamental issues.
And also the understanding is mutual that we need economic security, that we have to overcome the dependency on raw materials, critical minerals, and also some green products. And therefore, we have to create our own industrial standards and sovereignty. So this is a mutual interest of Europe and the US. And to make this mutual interest becoming a strong partnership, we need to solve some problems. Bruno Le Maire has mentioned some concrete items. The idea behind it is that a strong green industrial market in the US and a strong green industrial market in Europe will help each other. That we build a green bridge over the Atlantic and help each other, because the goal is the same: fighting global warming and creating a new industrial resilience and industrial independence in a way.
The German Economy Minister Robert Habeck speaking there. For more on that visit to Washington, I'm now joined by Hubertus Barth, Managing Director of the German Economic Institute. Welcome to DW. So both sides agreed on full transparency about these U.S. subsidies. Is that the best deal that the two ministers from Europe were able to get?
I think it was not plausible and not possible to change the Inflation Reduction Act with that visit. It has been long debated in the US. It was a very, very painful process of finding that compromise. So it wasn't possible to open up that legislation again. But there was a lot to do on and many options on implementing the IRA that could help the Europeans to also see and have the US as a prominent market. So that should have been more. That should be more than transparency. But transparency, of course, that's a baseline for all kind of negotiations and trade.
Let's talk about it then. The EU leaders are quite concerned that this massive subsidies program, the Inflation Reduction Act, could cause green tech companies to relocate away from the European Union to the United States. What would be the problem if they did that and whatever they produce would be imported back to Europe?
Well, first of all, the subsidies in the US are paid for if things are bought in the US and produced in the US. So it's probably not for exporting to Europe, but of course it's a way to build up production potential in the US and well, which could be useful for the world markets. So why wouldn't it be a good idea to just import things subsidized in the US cheaper to Europe? Yes, of course, for some products that would be a good way. But if we want to be part of the production line and if we want to be a region where these important future technologies are produced and market opportunities, jobs, and so on can be located, then it's important that we have the US as the biggest international free market open for our producers.
Now, in response to the IRA, the EU wants to streamline decision-making, relax state aid rules. Is that going to be enough?
Well, the Green Deal Industrial Plan, the answer of the European Commission, has a focus on skills, on subsidies as well. They're talking about European funds. It's not very precise yet what they really want. I think our big opportunities are if we are innovative enough, if we have the skilled personnel, and that's a big strong point of especially Germany in the past. If we can become quicker, and that's also part of, so the regulatory framework is also part of the European initiative, we must be have been a clear perspective for those industries. You must be quicker in infrastructure and planning and regulation and all that. And one of the problems we face right now, and they are maybe more important and more critical for European and especially Germany manufacturing, is than the RIA, that the high energy prices, and that's the main reason for relocation right now.
One brief answer, if you could. In the State of the Union address, the U.S. president doubled down on his plan of rebuilding the economy. He said, buy American. What will that mean for transatlantic trade?
Well, for us, it's good if there's a strong economy in the U.S., but his statement made clear that
shadow there lies hope, got tension with a knife. I find it hard to cope. Stop playing with